This Gaggia Classic is the only one like it in the world. What's so special about it? Well, it's powder coated in Lacey Yellow. It's a one-of-a-kind machine for sure, but does that make it better? Does it mean it's worth more? Is this still just a product, or is it art? Well, stick around because I am going to be showing you just how I got here and talking about what it all means. This journey started 2 months ago when I found this ad for the 30th anniversary edition Gaggia Classic. Something about it piqued my interest, but it wasn't the awesome art they had printed on the case. It was the idea of turning this Gaggia into a piece of art. So I didn't buy the machine. I decided that I wanted to roll my own and powder coat one instead. Now, if you haven't seen the first two parts of this series, go and check them out. In the first part, I start organizing all the gear, sandblasting cabinet, the oven, and more. And in the second part, I decide to do a test run with my bathroom trash can. In between those, I actually did end up buying that Gaggia 30th anniversary piece and giving it the full spa treatment. So after 2 months, I decided I was finally ready for the boss battle. So when I left you, I had, I think, successfully coated my bathroom trash can. However, even with the new blast cabinet, I was still running into an issue with the siphon feeding mechanism for the sand. Even with a full box of stand, it was still running out. So I checked out some sandblasting videos and saw that most people with similar cabinets ended up installing something called a metering valve. One of them said they couldn't believe they had waited 4 years to install it. And kudos to this eBay seller who has the best description I've ever seen on eBay or anywhere else. It goes on for pages and pages. All right, so I got the valve and started the install. And while I'm showing you that, I want to address the AI comments I received on the trash can video. AI didn't come up with this video or write these words. AI did not tell me how to brace this door for drilling. It didn't tell me to mark the corners and then mark the center. It didn't tell me to remove the foam for the washer and use silicone instead. I heard that on YouTube. I use AI as a tool, just like all of these other tools. All tools can be used for good or evil, so ultimately, worrying about AI is just worrying about human nature. And whether that's worthwhile, I will leave to you to decide. Anyway, with that metering valve installed, the Sandblaster functioned way better and used about half of the media. My only real issue now with blasting is that my compressor is definitely at the lower end of what I really need to do this 100%. It works for now, though. All right, I am pretty happy with how this turned out. There's some marks there from wet hands and stuff, but I had to say the new setup, the sandblasting there worked pretty well. I had trouble seeing inside the case. There's still a few areas where there's still some black. I'm not going to worry too much about the inside because although it will be powder coated, it's not going to be visible. I'm more concerned about the outside. The outside looks great. I'm obviously going to give it a bake, and down here I ran into some real trouble getting rid of all of that evidence of rust. There was still some areas where it was kind of black. I don't know if that's some other material, but it wasn't rust color, but it was black, so I removed that. Took a little bit. But I have to say, on the whole, I am pleased with this. So the next step for this is to go baking. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of a wipe with acetone and stuff just to get any dust off. And then we're going to powder coat this guy. All right, let's get started. All right, so I had a couple of issues with the general process. And the first is I didn't like this clearance in the oven. So instead of using the rack, I decided to lengthen the hooks and use the part of the oven that holds the heating element in. I'm planning on hanging the case from this piece of flat stock while I powder coat it, so I'm constructing the copper wire to be able to hold the case evenly. And as I test this improved system in the oven, you can see that I get a few inches more clearance, which is huge. The second issue I had was the actual powder coating itself. Getting to the back of the target was almost impossible, and both reaching from underneath and applying it from the back of the booth made for uneven results with the gun. So what I wanted was some kind of a spinning mechanism that would allow free rotation of the case during powder coating. My idea was to use this piece of 2x2 suspended from the overhead bar. And since there's no electrical connection needed, I figured out a fairly simple way to do this, and as a bonus, I get to use a bolt that's been in my tool cabinet for at least 10 years. First, I drilled the main hole for the bolt, and then I added a cavity for the nut. Once that was fitted, I cut a groove from my flat stock, and then I held it in place with a wood screw. This was one of the most rewarding parts of the whole build because I've been designing it in my mind since I powder coated the trash can 2 weeks ago. That's kind of how I work. I never really did well in coding job interviews because they would often ask really difficult questions. Now, I have nothing against asking difficult questions, but I don't think about solutions on the spot. I kind of throw them on my mind's back burner, and then at some random point, usually when I'm walking the dog or sitting on the beach, the answer will pop into my head. Anyway, I absolutely love it when a plan comes together. Okay, so it's time for the outgassing. And during my trash can powder coating, I discovered that this needs to be long and hot. That means 450 for 30 minutes. And the outgassing reveals a ton. First of all, those cheetah spots are because there was definitely some clear coat still left on the case. That clear coat burned into some kind of a carbon residue. I totally whiffed last time on showing you the indoor particulates, but not this time. Here you can see that particulates went up to around 160 during the burn-off. So it's back to sandblasting, and in total, I was sandblasting for another 25 minutes. And I guess while I'm doing this, I must have been thinking about a better compressor because I have this screenshot on my phone. And after a good blast with compressed air and then a wipe down with acetone, it's finally time to powder coat the Gaggia Classic. And it's been a long time coming. I mean, it's been 2 months since I came up with this project. That said, I don't think I could have done it any quicker. Like I said, I don't just stick an idea in one end and force it through my life until it comes out the other. I take time, I ruminate. I'm not going to say something cliche like, life is the journey. Because if this powder coating series proves anything, it's that I do absolutely need to see results for my own sanity. Anyway, this time around, the powder coating is definitely better, but there are new challenges. Getting the inside corner doesn't seem to be happening, that's one. And two, this gun isn't very good. It basically only works correctly when the powder canister is exactly upright. Any angle, and it means I need to shake it to wake it. And then I get big old puffs of powder followed by nothing. So the bargain basement nature of this gun is really showing through. Anyway, by the end of it, it looks pretty good. So I am transferring the case to the preheated oven for curing. My initial excitement here is palpable. I'm so confident that I break everything down and start cleaning up. I even take a moment to check the air quality, and you can see that this peak during powder coating and curing is quite a bit higher at over 200 ppm. So it's time to inspect it, and looking at the front here, it's a little thin. The side here is significantly thicker, and there are a couple of minor marks that I can see. And the inside here has not been coated, so I'm kind of devising a way to recoat here. And at this point, I admit I'm stuck. So I asked Gemini how to proceed. Now, it recommended something called hot flocking. And I want to talk about here the real utility of AI. It can condense thousands of pieces of disparate information like videos and forum posts and condense it into a simple answer. Now, I had seen some videos from Prismatic that mention hot flocking, but Gemini had the recipe right away. Heat it to below curing temp and then powder coat immediately, followed by a final cure. Now, whether that's the right thing to have done in this case, I'm sure you will all let me know in the comments. Anyway, by this time, I'm focusing on the bare spots, and it's still tough getting to those inside corners. What seems to work well is when I remove the voltage, actually, by taking my foot off the pedal, and that might be where hot flocking really excels.
So look, and a minor bit of missing areas there, but nothing too serious. The inside looks, wow, I mean, the inside is perfect. Can you believe that that was a rusty case? I mean, it is unbelievable.
All right, it's looking awesome, but we are not done yet. I have this donor machine, so I'm going to use all the parts from this guy to make the final machine.
All right, folks, if you made it this far, thank you for sticking around, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe. I have a bunch of awesome projects coming up, and you're definitely going to want to see those. So the Gaggia is officially powder coated. Now, I know it took a long time to get here, but I couldn't be happier with the result. That said, there are definitely a couple of improvements that I plan for next time I powder coating. Number one, I want to be able to powder coat at multiple angles. The 360 thing was great, but it wasn't quite good enough. I definitely need a better solution for that. That's first. And second, I want to plan for 2 coats and a partial cure in between. I feel like it's going to be necessary pretty much every time I'm powder coating, so I might as well just plan for that from the start. So the question must be answered. Is this art or product? Now, this is the part of the video where I had planned to ask you, what do you think this Gaggia is worth? However, while I was making this video, a buyer for another Gaggia reached out. During the course of the conversation, I told her about the powder-coated Gaggia. She asked me to send her a picture, which I did. She loved it. She asked for the price. I guessed around $700, and she said, I'll take it. So the Gaggia is sold. So let me know. What do you think? Was $700 a good price? Should it have been more? Let me know. But the story doesn't end there. Dage, the buyer, is setting up a coffee and matcha trailer here in Honolulu. And she asked if I would be able to help during the process if they hit any snags. Of course, I'm only too happy to help. And I asked her if her or her business partner, Diamond, would like to come on the show. So here I am speaking with Diamond about the Gaggia and also about their brand new trailer. Okay, we are here with Diamond. Diamond is starting up a coffee and matcha trailer here in Oahu. So we're going to get to that. I want to hear a little bit about her, why you think she was like into that.
It brings like a vintage vibe. So
Have like particularly like artsy taste.
yeah, she's very artsy and like she's very particular in her style.
Tell us about your new venture trailer.
So it's she sell coffee. It's basically Hawaiian theme. We're gonna have a bunch of like local kind style drink, island grown, homemade, like our syrups, everything on the make is like homemade kind of thing. So
All right, this awesome journey is coming to a close, and it's been a ton of work and a ton of learning, but also a ton of fun. So thank you for coming along for the ride. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. I have a ton of awesome projects coming up. I'm rebuilding a Rancilio right now, and I'm going to be helping out a good friend start out on their espresso journey. So those are just a couple of the many amazing projects that I have planned. So stick around. And a special thank you to Diamond for coming on and talking to us, and also to Grant at Aesthetic Gallery Hawaii for letting me film in that beautiful gallery. Make sure you go visit both of them if you are in Hawaii. All right, I will see you in the next one. Over and out.
A single popping circuit could pacify folks with superior programming to pass on the low-pass filter.